Banes. There are many different versions of these powerful spirits within the world of darkness. They are different than the Fomori, and today we're going to talk about them. Hello everyone, welcome to the Maple Table. My name's Nathaniel. This is a channel where we discuss lore around some of your favorite role-playing games and mine, such as Starfinder, Werewolf the Apocalypse. If that's something you're interested in, I would love to have you join me at the table, and you can do so by hitting that subscribe button and that bell notification. I was going to do just one video on the Banes to try to explain them, but then as I started looking into it, there's actually very many different types of Banes. And seeing as how I was worried about running out of videos to produce for you guys, I really wasn't. There's so much in World of Darkness. I thought I would extend it out and give you one video per Bane, maybe two Banes if they're a little bit easier to explain, and how you can use them in your games. If you enjoy talking about games, then please come check out my Discord server where we can talk about World of Darkness games, Starfinder, anything else you want. Link is in the description. Banes are spirits in service to the Wyrm, and they reside entirely in the Umbra, or in the spiritual representation of the real world, using the World of Darkness standards. Banes typically will represent a powerful emotion and a negative powerful emotion, so you're talking like rage, envy, greed, anything along those lines. A Bane can also be a fallen Gaian spirit, a spirit that used to be for the power of good, which was corrupted and ultimately fell to Wyrm corruption. Everything that exists in the physical world right now has a mirrored presence in the Umbra. This means that a tree in a park in the physical realm will have a mirrored representation of a tree in a park in the Umbra. However, this tree will have a spiritual presence. It will have a spiritual connection. Everything in the World of Darkness has a spirit in it. Some are more easy to talk to than others. And depending on what type of area this spirit is in, using our tree in a park example, if it's a purified park or something that is of a cleansed nature, then the spirit and the tree will represent a something closer to Gaia. They will be pure, it will be healthy. If it is something that is in a negative area or a negative emotion, or just something really, really bad has happened in this area, it will become a twisted, warped mockery of what it was supposed to be. These positive spirits will be called epiflings, and the negative spirits will be Banes. The one particular Bane that I wanted to talk about and share with you today is the Abliphet Bane. This particular Bane will dwell in the cities, and it is a nightmarish fusion of Weaver and Wyrm together in an unholy ceremony. The Abliphet Bane, or if you just want to call them an Abliphet for short, they tend to make their homes on top of tall buildings designed for communal living, so high-rise apartments. You could even make the case of using a office building as well. And while the high-rise building is the preferred method of infestation, haunting, whatever you want to call it, for the Abliphet, it's not above going into a old hotel with a few stories. The Abliphet will start on top of the building, and it will start to reach its tendrils down into the building. It will go through the ducts, it will go through the halls, the ventilation systems, anywhere where it can just work itself into the building. This is a slower process, it is not something that happens overnight, and the Abliphet will turn the building that it is infecting, corrupting, into a hotbed of tension. It will use emotions like despair, rage, hopelessness. Anyone who lives in this building or comes to it often will become wrapped up in the emotion, the tension. They will become so focused on their neighbors and what they're not doing, how nothing is equal or how they have wronged them in some way. Neighbors turn on each other. It creates this atmosphere of violence, this atmosphere of tension. And this is what the Abliphet feeds on. Now, the other interesting thing with this is that any residents who are getting caught up in this building, this curse, if you will, for their living situation, they will not be able to take their problems past the door. They can leave the building, but as soon as they do, this frustration, this emotion that they're feeling, it stays at the threshold. They can leave and they will immediately feel better. But if you live there, you have to come home. And as soon as you come back across the threshold, that tension, that anger will latch itself back onto you and you're right back into it. All of this will continue to build, it will continue to fester until something major happens. Spiritually, what will happen is the building will turn into what's called a wound, a scar on the world. It's a very ugly, not nice place to be. What will happen in the physical world as a representation of this, you will see extreme violence, you will see murder, you will see probably somebody setting the building on fire and bringing the whole thing down. And once this happens, there is no longer anything left for the Abliphet to feed on, in which case it will move to a new building and repeat the whole process over again. So now we know what an Abliphet does. What does an Abliphet look like? It is a large, white, jelly-like monstrosity that turns any building that it infests into a living nightmare. Having colors that range from a clear white to a purplish color and anything sort of in between from that, you will find it squatting on the top of a building. And if you see one, you know you got some problems. Now, I did say that the Abliphet would sit on top of the roof of a building. It's not its preferred method. It would rather sit in the attic or the ceiling, somewhere where it's concealed and you aren't going to spot it right away. But if the top of the building is the only place that it can get to, then that will do just fine. Its tendrils are long. It can reach any part of the building up or down with a single tendril. It will have many of them, and they're quite veiny and bladdery, just disgusting. But they will choke the life out of the building wherever it can. Like I mentioned, the air ducts. If there's spaces in the walls that it can get through, then it will do that too. It loves some elevator shafts. That's easy access up and down through the building. And as it infects everywhere, it also starts listening. You know the expression, if the walls had ears? When you have an Abliphet, they do. But it only wants to hear about the negative stuff because it will then amplify that negative energy back to you and your life will get progressively worse. No one is exactly sure where an Abliphet comes from, but they are definitely one of the worst banes for urban development. If people are killing each other and your buildings are burning down, nobody's going to want to live there. While they are becoming more increasingly common in the more well-populated cities in North America, or let's just call it the West, the Haken or the Eastern Guru, the Eastern Beast Courts are very familiar with how these banes operate. How the Abliphet does this is it uses a gift that functions very similar to one of the Shadow Lord gifts, specifically whisper catching. This gift basically allows the Abliphet to listen in on any conversations and specifically focus in on the negative ones, retain that information, and then eventually whisper that information back out to the other denizens. So there are no secrets in a building like this from your neighbors, especially when there's been an Abliphet infecting it, because it will spread the word. This is one way of how it turns the residents of the building against each other. On the flip side of this, if you are an outsider, the residents of the building will not recognize you and they will not want to share their secrets. And it's actually very, very difficult to get someone in this scenario or in this situation to open up to someone who is not part of the building. The mentality of this is, you don't live here, not your problem. So what are my thoughts on the Abliphet? I think this is a very interesting and very easy to use bane, especially if you want to focus in on a horror story or do a haunted house, a haunted office building, condo building, whatever. Not only does the Abliphet have a difficult to get rid of presence, usually the strong emotions that are attached to it draw other spirits, other banes, even some Fomori in some cases. And if you want to know what a Fomori is, please check out my video up here on the Fomori. So as the Abliphet grows in power, so too does the presence of the other evil spirits that you would find. They will want to defend the building because it's a nice place for them to live. Nice place. It's all in perspective, I guess. Speaking of something nice, if you could hit that like button to let me know that you enjoyed this video, that would be really nice. Thank you to all of my patron supporters. You are wonderful. I love you all. Autumn Alchemist, Caneroot, Warpony, Ducky, Get of Mathrocks, B8 Bravo, Arutvin, The First Layer, Bones Malone, Westheimer, and Ain't No Waifu. Thank you all for your support. If you would like to get your name on the super awesome list of patrons, then please check out the Patreon link in the description below. If you would like to learn more about some of the Wyrm and the nastiness that you can throw at your werewolf players, then check out the playlist on your screen now. My name's Nathaniel. This has been The Maple Table. Thank you so much for your subscription. Thanks for stopping by, everyone.